So if you followed my channel for a while, you know that I have two favorite powder blushes. The Valentino Eye to Cheek, which has now been reformulated into the Valentino, what are they called? Color Crush, which is coming soon. I have them. So I will do a video with those soon. And then Gucci has not discontinued their original beautiful blush, which is the Luminous Matte Blush. They've just simply added to the line 6 new shades in a new formula. So the new formula is the Gucci Glow formula. And I have all 6 shades today. We're going to compare them with the original Gucci Luminous Mattes. I have all 11 of those. So we can kind of compare and contrast the colors. And then we can look at the textures, get them on the face, and tell you a little bit more about them. So if that sounds good to you, then please consider liking, subscribing, following along, and shopping my links down below. All 6 colors of the new Gucci Glow blushes are currently available on the Gucci website. Other retailers have specific colors just for them, but if you want to get all 6 of the colors, then you would want to go to the Gucci website. So let me go ahead and pull some information about these new blushes, and then I'll be right back. Okay, hold on. Okay, so the original Gucci blushes came out a few years ago, and they had this star pattern on them. Now they have come out with some re-promotes that have different kind of covers on them, but they basically have this star pattern on them. They did come out with 2 collector's edition ones for the holidays that actually had new colors in them. So there are 11 of these total, although the 2 that were available for the holidays a few years ago have been discontinued. They were limited edition. So when looking at the new Gucci blushes, they are the same price. They are $49. Whether you get the Gucci Luminous Mattes or you get the Gucci the new version, which is the Glowy Dewy blush. I do not find the new ones to be particularly dewy, but I do think they are very glowy. So they're the same price, you get the same amount of product, same container, just a different cover. And let's see, they both have a 24-month shelf life, although if you're keeping them cool and in a dry place, they should be fine. I also want to mention the Gucci highlighters. These came out a few years ago as well. They have some different special edition colors they did for the holidays. But I mention that because the new Gucci Glow Dewy blushes are kind of like if these and the Luminous Matte original blushes had a love child. So I pulled these out too because I think that some of the colors might make good comparisons. So let's go ahead and swatch the 6 new shades first, and then we'll do comparisons. So the first shade I have today in the new container, and you can tell the difference because the old one had the stars and this one has this kind of sunburst design on it. It's also a slightly different color on the inside. So they're the same price, it's just the containers look slightly different. And you can tell the originals have this peach color with stars. These have an off-white with kind of a sunburst. The first shade here is Arctic Pink, which is this really beautiful cool toned pink color, and you can see right there from the swatch that there's a good amount of glow in there. I would say, particularly for the 2 lightest shades of this blush, don't be intimidated by the color because they're quite buildable and mild when you get them on. So as you can see there, that Arctic Pink is a lot less intimidating swatched out than it is if you put it on, or if you look just at the container, you'd think, oh, this is crazy. But when you put it on, it's not nearly that intense. Okay, shade number 2, where is she? Is Bright Fresh Coral. Fresh Coral. Again, This one's got a glowy finish, and these first two shades are very buildable, and I think that they are more meant for people with lighter skin tones. Really beautiful. Look at the glow there. And we'll compare them to the OGs. And I'm trying to think if I have any other cream blushes that we could do a comparison to. Chanel. So if I remember, we'll do a Chanel comparison. Okay, then shade number 3 is Warm Peach, which I actually think is maybe the most unique of the colors of this new series. It's really interesting. Just a beautiful, warm, goldy, red, peachy kind of color. And let me put that on, and you can see that the pigmentation level goes up, but it's also that beautiful glowy formula. And then shade number 4, is, what is it? We've done Fresh Coral. Let's look at Bright Pink. Now this, to me, looks much more intense than I would think, but it's really beautiful when it's on. And I would say, having played with these for a week now, any of these would work for any skin tone. It's just if you're very light or light medium, you want to use a lighter hand when working with the darker colors. So this is the Bright Pink, and you can see it's got kind of a fuchsia-y undertone to it. Really pretty. Okay, and then the last two colors they have are, let's see, we have Soft Plum, which looks really intimidating. Very unique color. And these have kind of a spongy texture, not as much as the highlighters, but certainly more than the traditional luminous matte blush. So this is the plum color. That is really beautiful. Look how like liquidy, glassy these almost look. Really unique color. The final one is very intimidating because it's so bright, but this is a Bright Ruby. This is the 6th new shade, and this one and the plum one, you definitely want to be careful if you're my shade, because they can be very intense, but you certainly can achieve something lighter if you want. But look how intense those last two colors are. So these are the 6 new shades of the Gucci Glow Dewy Blush. Arctic Pink, the Coral, the Warm Peach, the Bright Pink, or was it Super Pink? What was it called? Bright Pink, the Plum, and the Ruby. So I'm going to wipe these off, and then we're going to do some comparisons before we put them on the face. Okay, be right back. Okay, so like I said, I love the original 11 luminous matte finishes, and they are very different texture-wise. So let me pull one of those just to show you. This is Rosy Beige, which is my favorite one of the luminous mattes, and I'm a little sad that they did not release a glowy kind of equivalent to this, but I'm sure it will come in time. So this is the luminous matte, and you can automatically see from the swatch that it's not nearly as shiny. It's also not dry looking, but it's a beautiful, buildable, soft matte finish, and I just love this color. It's probably my all-time favorite color of a blush. But you can see it's a very different finish than, and don't compare the colors here, than say this peach. The peach just has a little bit more glow and luminosity. They're both beautiful. Like I said, same amount of product, same price. But I wanted to show you some comparisons today as far as things that are in the luminous matte line that would work really well. So what I did was I wiped off half of the swatches. The closest one to shade number 1, which is Arctic Pink, is True Pink, which is this shade. You can see these two are not particularly close, but this is the blue-based pink that is in the luminous matte line. And God, some of these are more than 2 years old and they still feel so soft and luxurious. So let me put that here to show you. Okay, well now looking like this, they do look closer on swatch, but you can see this one here is glowier. It's also a little bit lighter and more buildable, but this one's a little more powdery, but they're both really beautiful. The reason I said I was gonna pull the highlighters is because one of the highlighters they released for this past holiday is in Arctic Pink, which to me seems pretty close. Now the highlighters are a little bit squishier than the blushes, and I really like the highlighters. So let me show you what that looks like, and I guess we can put that down here. So that's fairly close. It's sort of like if these two had a baby, it'd be this one. And that's really how I feel about these, is that they really are kind of a hybrid between a highlighter and a blush. More blush than highlighter, but they do have that beautiful glowy finish. Okay, so number 2 was the coral color and fresh coral. There is a bright coral in the powder line. I think that these two don't look very similar. This is the bright coral in the luminous line. This is the new fresh coral in the glow line. But there is another color in the luminous line that I really like that is, I think, more similar, and it's the color Radiant Pink. So I'm actually going to swatch that because I think it looks more similar. So this is Radiant Pink, which is a beautiful coral color, and I'm going to swatch that under. And you can just automatically see that it's more powdery. This is going to give you more of a glowy kind of watercolor effect. These are going to be more like a traditional blush, but they're certainly not dry. Like I said, the original luminous mattes are some of my all-time favorites. So really beautiful. For the warm peach color, the closest in comparison is the shade Soft Red. So let me show you that one. And this was a shade extension, this Soft Red. It wasn't one of the original ones they launched, so that's why I think they will launch more colors of these too. And that's really pretty too. You can see they're not this for that matches, but it kind of gives you an idea, if you have the Gucci Luminous mattes, how these kind of fit into the equation. Okay, we are overflowing with blushes here. The next one is the Bright Pink shade. It's called Bright Pink. And the closest one I think to that is actually this one called Intense Plum. This has never looked like plum to me. I've always thought that was really funny, this one. But it's supposed to represent like a juicy plum. Sure. So this is Intense Plum, and I think that it's going to be the closest one to this Bright Pink. Yeah. I'd say those are fairly close. Not perfect matches, but you wouldn't want them to be perfect matches if you've already got the luminous mattes. The next shade is this beautiful, intense, soft plum. And the closest match to that, I think, would be Warm Berry. So let's swatch this. I mean, and this is an OG one that came out with their original launch, and it is still so powdery, so pigmented. As long as you're keeping your makeup cool and dry, you should be fine. So that's actually a pretty good comparison right there. That's pretty close. So I would say if you're thinking about a color match, Intense Plum in the original is very similar to Soft Plum in the glowy. It's obviously just more glowy. And then the final one, that very crazy intense, which we've kind of lost some of it. So let me put a little bit more of that on there. It's that weird part of the hand where things don't want to swatch very well. This is the one called Bright Ruby. And the closest match to that is Intense Ruby, which was one of the holiday releases 2 years ago. They did holiday highlighters this last year, probably because they knew these blushes were coming. So this is Intense Ruby, and I'm going to put that up against Bright Ruby. And you can see that the Bright Ruby is actually much more intense. But of course, it's going to require, this one's going to go on more intense because it's a powder. But that's kind of a comparison of color. Now, what I want to do now is I'm going to grab these Chanel cream to powder blushes, the 5 of them that came out. They've only had 5. I wish they would have more. And we're just going to compare them texture wise. I'll just grab one of those that I think is somewhat close in a color to these, just so you can see the difference. And then we'll get these on the face. Okay, be right back. Okay, so these are not going to be a perfect comparison color wise, but I think it'll give you an idea. So this is the original Gucci Luminous Matte in soft red. A beautiful color. I always forget how much I like this color. Really beautiful. You can see just a very fine silky powder. There's no real shine to it, but it does have a little bit of like a luminosity, but it's a natural finish. Okay, and then this is the warm peach shade of the new Gucci Glow Dewy blush. Again, I don't get dewy from these. God, that's a beautiful color too. And you can see it's just a little bit, it's tighter in the pan because it's a cream to powder. And it's a little bit more, it's just got a little bit more luminosity to it. And then finally, I have the shade Rouge Franc. And this is from the Chanel cream to powder blushes that came out a year and a half ago or so. I want them to come out with more. They've only come out with 5 of these, but these are true cream to powders too. And they're kind of a similar texture. They're maybe a little bit more creamy, where these cream to powder Gucci's really do feel like a hybrid. These really do straight up feel like cream. So this is in the shade, like I said, Rouge Franc. So here we have the cream to powder in the soft red. We have the new Gucci Glow Dewy blush, and this is in the shade Warm Peach. And then down here we have the Rouge Franc from Chanel. I would say that the Chanel's are just a little bit smoother, a little bit waxier, maybe a little bit creamier, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. But they're very similar, the Chanel to the new Gucci cream to powders. So I think if you like the Chanel, you'll like the new Gucci. And when pulling the comparisons, I did not see any like straight up comparisons. I say that because if you have the Chanel cream to powders, well, I don't think you're going to get a lot of like duplicate colors if you get the new Gucci Glow blushes. So I think you can be okay in that regard. I want to say these are $55, so they're about $5 more. You get 8 grams of product with these, where with the Gucci you get, I believe it's 5.5. So if that's the case, yeah, 5.5. You do get more product with the Chanel. Just something to consider. I've never panned a blush, and that rosy beige I showed you earlier is, like I said, probably my all-time favorite blush, and I'm not even close to panning that. I would think that these glowy ones might have a tendency of hard panning a little bit, but I haven't noticed anything. I haven't had them that long. But what I would say is if that happens, you know, the quickest, easiest way to get rid of that is to just take a piece of tape and run it over the top of it, pull the tape back, and that should remove any hard pan residue. Okay, So what's the best way to try these on? Well, first of all, I think if you are a darker skin tone or you're using one of the lighter colors, you might want to use something that's denser to pick up the product, because much like the Gucci highlighters, I hear a lot of complaints online about these because a traditional like big fluffy brush has trouble picking these up because they're so creamy. So you want to use something a little bit denser. When it comes to if you are lighter skinned and you want to use any of those last 3 to 4 colors that I showed you that are much more intense, that's when you could use a fluffier brush, because I think you're going to get a better, payoff with that. These give a beautiful like watercolor washed effect. So I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. I think what we can do is, and it's going to look a little weird, but I will do 3 and then I will wipe them off and then do 3 more. And then that way you can at least see what the colors look like. So we'll do 1, 1, and maybe 1 here. It's gonna look really silly, but at least you can see what the colors look like. So let's put the crazy intense ones on second. And so that would be the bright ruby and the soft plum and the bright pink. Those are the more crazy intense ones. And let's start over here with the softer ones. So number 1 here is the Arctic Pink. And I'm just gonna grab, what would be a good, I'm gonna grab a Refer 2609, which I believe is their new brush that is a collaboration. If you're going to use a brush like this that's a little softer, you're going to have to spend more time building up with these. I would recommend, if you want pigment faster, use a denser brush with the lighter colors. So let's put this in and see what we get. And you can see you're just getting kind of a wash of color by using these lighter, like fluffier brushes. But the nice thing about the Refer brushes, like the Shotos and this new 2609, is because they had these uneven hairs on the end, they really do give you that watercolor effect, and you don't have to worry about getting every bristle even, because it's going to give you this kind of wash effect. That's 1 coat, and you can see you don't see a ton of that. So let me do a little more. For my skin tone, I probably want to use a denser brush than this, but it's okay. I'm going to really over apply these so you can see what the color looks like. These lighter ones are going to require more building than, say, like the powder ones, because the powder ones are going to give you more instant color right off the bat. Both of them, both Gucci formulas, are pretty spectacular though. Okay, so that's 3 good dips in there, and you can see it's really less intimidating when you get it on than it looks in the pan. Really beautiful. Okay, so let's dust our brush off and remove any excess product, because I don't really want to change brushes. I want to stay relatively consistent just so that you can see, what they look like. Back when I was in college, they would say, what was it about doing statistics? You want to keep everything kind of similar so that everything turns out the same. So the second shade, which is also on the lighter side, is this fresh coral shade. So let me get some of that on my brush, and I can automatically see in the pan that this is a warmer shade. This will be a really pretty summer shade, I think, for people. And I would say if you're darker skinned, you obviously could use these. It's just going to require more buildup. Just like on lighter skin, you're definitely going to want to take it easy when we get to the second set. The darker colors. That's 2. And what did we do? We did 3 on the first one. So let's do 3 on this one. These really are foolproof, and they almost blend themselves. That can be the brush, using a good quality brush. But that's really beautiful. So you can see this one's a little cooler. This one's a little warmer, more coral. Arctic Pink, perfect name for it. So we have Arctic Pink and we have Fresh Coral. Really nice. Okay, now this is where we're going to start to look a little crazy, but whatever. So should we do that? I don't want it to look crazy because then you're going to think, if you see it, that I look nuts. So what I'm going to do is remove both of these, and then we'll come back and we'll try the next two shades. Okay, I threw the tiniest bit of skin tint back on just so that we would be consistent. And yes, it's the same skin tint that I was wearing before. Let me grab a very similar brush. I think some people said 5 was very similar, and it is. It's just more dense. So I'll just be a little bit more careful with it. But to show you the next two colors. So the next one is Warm Peach, which I think it might be my favorite. Really unique, beautiful color. So let me grab, this is a denser brush, so I'll be careful. No fallout really, because like the powder ones do have fallout, but because these are so tight in the pan, there's not really fallout. Okay, you can see right off the bat that the next two shades, there's a big jump up in color. Like that right there is what 3, passes of the first blush, the first two colors would look like. So I'm not going to do 3 passes, but I will do 2. And this is a slightly denser brush, so that's going to help contribute to that too. But like I said, I'm over applying because I want you to see the color. This is a beautiful color. This is the Warm Peach number 3. Really like that. Okay, let's dust off this brush. I have so much brush laundry tonight. That's what our friends at Not Fit for Print call it. Brush laundry. And I agree with her. I hate brush cleaning, but it's important, so why not? Okay, number 4 is the bright pink shade, which is, I would say these two in the middle are really middle of the road. They really are. 1 and 2 are better for like lighter skin and so forth. So let's look at this one. This is bright pink, and this is almost like a fuchsia. That is almost a fuchsia right there. And I will try to be gentle when applying this. But you can see one pass there with a denser brush gives crazy watercolor payoff. But even these two, now obviously I would not wear this much blush, but even these two, they blend themselves. It's almost like a beautiful like watercolor effect. I'm not saying these are better or worse than the original 11 shades of the Gucci Luminous Matte, but they are equally as beautiful. So this is Soft Peach, and this is the Bright Pink, number 4. And you can just see these are both kind of the medium of the opacity, medium color payoff, but beautiful colors, both of them. I love this one. So again, the Warm Peach and the Bright Pink. Okay, wipe these off, put on a little skin tint, and then we'll come back and look at the last two with a very light hand. Okay, I've reapplied skin tint, which by the way, this skin tint is the Make Beauty skin tint. If you've never tried the Make Beauty skin tint or the Make Beauty concealer, those are both really nice, lovely products, and they're reasonably priced. Okay, so now we're going to try the last two shades, which I'm a little scared of because these are much more intense. But what we'll do is just use an even lighter touch. And I'm going to grab for this the AA01 from Refer. It's not exactly the same as the 2609, but I think it'll be close enough. So the next shade is Soft Plum. And these can be very intense on lighter skin tones, so you just want to be careful. But again, I'm going to overdo it today just to show you the color. This is a beautiful color. It looks crazy intimidating in the pan, but really beautiful when you get it on. No fallout. Really nice. But look at that. That's a beautiful color. I'm going to go pretty light with this one. But you can see these can really be built up to be very intense. But even with that dark color, it's really blending out beautifully. But look how much pigment that one has. It's a beautiful color though. I wonder how this one compares to my beloved, what's it called? Rosy Beige, just for shits and giggles. So this is Rosy Beige, my favorite, in the Luminous Matte. And this Soft Plum in the Glowy. Obviously, they're going to be different, but you can kind of see they live in the same family. That's interesting. I hope they do come out with a glowy version of something similar to this, but a light-handed version of this might give you something similar. That's actually really nice to see that comparison. I like that a lot. And that's a beautiful color. Okay, this last one can be crazy. It's so intense, but again, light hand, proper brush, it'll turn out really nice. So let me clean off that AA01. And grab number 6, Bright Ruby. This is an intense color, but really pretty. But look at that. Okay, we're gonna go as light as I can. Look at that. That's one pass in there. Grab just a little bit more, just to build it up and show you. Beautiful. Now here, this cheek has gotten very dry from me testing out these different blushes. So you can see that there's a dry spot there. But even with that, it's going on in a watercolor effect. So this is the plum shade number 5, and this is the ruby shade number 6. Okay, I'm gonna even these out, and then I'll come right back and we'll do final thoughts. Okay, so I went back in and tried to even out with the Soft Plum. I think it looks pretty good with the eye look. By the way, this is the new Chanel, what is that palette called? Confidence. So I think this looks really pretty, this Soft Plum color. And I wanted to go in with the Gucci highlighter, and this is in the shade Opal Pink, which is one of the OGs of the highlighter. And I'm just actually going to use the other end of my foundation brush, because these do require a stiffer, more compact brush, but really beautiful. I like these highlighters a lot if you use the right brush. You wouldn't necessarily need a highlighter with these glowy blushes. It just really depends on how much you want to glow. But you can see how beautiful they look together. So I would say if you're a fan of the original Gucci blushes, you'll really like these. If you like the Chanel cream to powder blushes, you'll really like these. They're very beautiful. They just require the proper brush, but they almost blend themselves. I think it is a fantastic addition to the Chanel line. Chanel, Gucci. And you know what? At the end of the day, that now gives us 17 Gucci blushes. So if you liked this video and you like this kind of content, please consider liking, subscribing, and following along and shopping my links. And I hope to see you again soon. Unsolicited iVice, YouTube, and Instagram. Gucci blushes. Bye, everybody.